Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, YouTubers. It's Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today, we are recapping and reacting to Power Book 2, Ghost, Season 2, Episode 8, and the episode is entitled Drug Related, and there's so much that happened this episode that it almost was a comedy. Because of Courtney Kemp's writing, I just couldn't, you guys. So, but it overall was a much better episode, probably one of the best episodes in the series, but again, a lot of comedy. So we start off, of course, Tariq's still in trial, and prosecution is doing their best to convince the jury that Tariq, a straight-A student trying to get custody of his little sister, is a murderer and specifically a cop killer as well. So then Method Man basically tells the court, they're trying to just pin this on him, any type of black man, because, previously Ezekiel Cross was a murder suspect. Now it's Tariq, so they're just trying to get any black man to be convicted at this point. So then prosecution drops a bomb that she's got this huge recording that is going to implicate Tariq, and Method Man is like, well, wait a second, we need to approach the bench and discuss this because you didn't present this evidence in discovery. And so, the judge rules that she needs to provide him with the recording so that the defense has time to prepare, but to ensure that Tariq does not hear this recording. So then after court, the estate attorney finds Tariq in the hallway and basically says that the adopted parents of Yaz is moving forward with adopting her, and that Ghost had in place a contingency plan that, if something happened to Tariq, whether he got killed or was in jail, that all of the rest of the family would be taken care of, essentially, which meant Yaz was the only person that was really safe in the family at this point, and that she was to be adopted by a new family, and her last name was supposed to change so that she was safe from any potential danger that took place. And Tariq is completely shook. Now, I don't know if Ghost really had all of this stuff planned from the grave, because usually they used to write Ghost in the earlier seasons as being 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everything, but then the past couple of seasons they just had him stuck on stupid. But it's either that or Ghost is somewhere alive and faked his own death. So I don't know. I would love a situation where Ghost faked his own death and just kind of reappears out of nowhere. That would be so amazing. And we've seemed to have completely dropped the Tasha storyline and witness protection, so I'm not even sure if she's going to appear in the last couple of episodes, but I would love a situation where Ghost had faked his death, because I feel like they are just making up stuff as they go with all of this stuff, because there's no way Ghost would have wrote that letter to Tariq saying, you got what you deserve, I expected you to be in jail. I expected that from Kanan, not from Ghost, to write to his own son. Even though they had issues, I don't think he is that malicious against his son. So anyways, Brayden and Effie, they are meeting with some random guy. It looked like a hotel or something, a cheap place, where potentially they could sell drugs off this guy and, buy off his supply. So he opens up his backpack, has some alien color type of drugs, and Brayden's all sniffing it yeah, dude, this is cool. And Effie's looking at him sus, this guy does not look like he has top of the line drugs or anything. So then he has half open what's supposed to be the coke, and Effie's just sussed out by it. She does not trust anything that's happening with this coke, so she of course just takes a lick of it herself to see what it tastes like, to see if it tastes legit or if it tastes like some random stuff. And so she told Brayden, we can't move forward with this dude because his drugs suck, and we have, pretty much champagne taste levels of clientele at these campuses, so we can't have these problems. So she tells him the deal is off. Brayden, of course, is pissed because he just at least wanted to get some type of drugs, and they had to leave. So then from there, Tariq is also trying to figure out a way to then get some drugs to try to figure out how they can make some money, because keep in mind, he still owes Method Man. He still has to pay his attorney fees to help get him off of this double murder case. So he sets up a meeting with Monet, with Kane, with Brayden, with Effie, and Kane's pissed, of course, and jealous, and he's all like, what is this, a field trip, a school field trip? Is everybody from college coming up here or whatever? And so it was just kind of funny, and so Tariq basically lays out this plan that they are going to have the gang that killed the student at the Stansfield, I think is DGD or whatever, they are going to rob Mecca, aka Dante, rob his supply. That way they can use his supply to then make their money and go back to drug dealing, essentially. So then, Monet, she's kind of skeptical. She's like, how is this all going to work? So Tariq is telling everybody what their role is, what everybody needs to do, that Monet needs to distract Lorenzo, that Kane is going to be with the Connect, making it seem like everything's on the up and up, and everybody else is going to be, strategically where they need to be. And so then Monet is being sus with Diane. Like, you could just tell Diane hates her mother and Monet hates Diane. And it is just, their dynamic is so freaking weird, because Monet is trying to tell Diane, she's trying to get intel from her about what's going on with Drew and Lorenzo so that she can be on top of things. And then mysteriously her phone keeps ringing, and of course it is Dante. So Diana eavesdrops on her to try to figure out what is she talking about and who is she talking to and who is Dante. So after Monet leaves, Diane completely tries to, turn up her room and figure out if she can find out who this guy is. And so then she finds in one of the designer shoe boxes some type of old Bible, and inside of it has a baby picture of Ezekiel Cross. And so Diana's all confused, because she's like, well, why would she have a baby picture of Ezekiel Cross? It doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't you have baby pictures of just your kids? So she was sussed out, and so that was when she called the vital statistics people for the birth certificate information of Ezekiel Cross. And I'm confused with this flub of a writing, because you can't just get birth certificate records on people. It doesn't work that way. Even in certain states, you physically have to be the person and have the verification with your own driver's license and everything else that it's you to print your own birth certificate. So how she was able to call the Board of Vital Statistics and ask about Ezekiel Cross and ask about a birth certificate for 2002, and they said that there was no record of any Ezekiel Cross in 2002, just freely giving this information on the phone. And this is what happens when you've been in healthcare too long and you know the ins and outs of what is, real and what is fake. So it's what is going on? So they said they have no record for 2002, but allegedly they have another record of Ezekiel Cross from a different year. So Diane is completely shook and, eventually somehow obtains this birth certificate. I still don't know how this happened. I need to look up the laws in New York, because this is completely sus and goofy writing. I have never seen anything like this before, but it was just a hot mess, and I was completely over it. So then Tariq goes to Method Man's office, because he gives him a call and basically says, hey, we've got the recording. We know who, snitched on you, or who was the person who betrayed you. And so he's like, okay, well, can I listen to it? And so then Method Man is like, well, technically you can't listen to it, because that ruins my reputation and it's my law firm, but I'm just going to go outside and I'm going to do whatever. And so Tariq looks at him like, hey, we need to discuss this. And so he's like, and he gives him this look like, dude, you need to listen to this while I'm leaving the room, you idiot. So he leaves, and Tariq then plays the audio and then remembers exactly where he was with Lauren when they had this conversation about who the novel is truly about and everything else. And so Tariq is pissed, but he's not pissed at Lauren. So it's just because he thinks that, he thinks something's off with it, it didn't make sense. And so who follows Tariq as Tariq is leaving out of there pissed? Mr. Cooper effing Sachs. follows him to the elevator, and he's all like, hey, Tariq, so who was that on the recording? I couldn't help but wonder what's happening. And I'm like, come on, dude, like, seriously? And so Tariq is like, I know you know who that was or whatever, and basically admitted that was his girlfriend, and asking Cooper Saxe, and then Cooper Saxe is trying to play dumb, but then exposes himself that he had an inkling of who it was, and so then he reveals that Carrie was the person who manipulated Lauren because they found drugs on her, and essentially this was their kind of deal so that she could then, avoid doing any, jail time or getting in trouble with the law or getting any charges against her for having drugs, even though it wasn't her drugs. It was somebody that planted those drugs, because remember, one of her friends or whatever told her that she needed to take the edge off and just like put it in her drawer or whatever. But with Lauren being in an honors program, she was not allowed to be in any parts of that or what have you. And so then Lauren is meeting, we saw very little Lauren in this episode, and Lauren was with her parents, like meeting with the attorney and kind of going over, her testifying and everything else. And she's saying she's not feeling it, that she doesn't want to do this at all. And they're saying that basically she has no choice because she has, she's the person that basically wore the wire while Tariq revealed all of this information. So she doesn't have any choice. So basically she's hemmed up and, hidden away from everybody this episode. And so then next thing we know, we go to class, and Tariq is back in class, with Tate being the teacher and Carrie there and everything else, but there was no Lauren after Tariq discovered that she is the person who is on the audio. So next thing you know, Carrie is getting a call, and she's like leaving out the classroom because prior to this, the prosecution and Cooper Saxe, they're still sleeping together, and Cooper Saxe is an idiot because he basically reveals without revealing that Tariq somehow heard the audio and knows that his girlfriend is the snitch, is the one that had the wire. So he's all trying to do damage control, and basically the prosecutor throws him out. So she's trying to get a hold of Carrie to let her know, like, hey, Tariq has listened to the audio. Lauren's in danger. We need to, be 10 steps ahead of this and this and that. And so Carrie's freaking out because Lauren's not in class. And so she disappears, and Tariq disappears from class. And next thing you know, Tariq is already in Lauren's dorm room, I guess looking for her, or presuming that Carrie was going to first go to her dorm room as well. So next thing you know, Carrie goes in the dorm room, and it gave me like flashbacks to Ghost, like how intimidating Ghost was and how threatening Ghost can be to people like that were, on his crap list, essentially. And so that was the look of horror that Carrie gave to Tariq. And Tariq basically is talking to her like, listen, you're going to testify against, you're going to testify against me or whatever on the stand. You're going to go in place of Lauren. I don't want Lauren anywhere near that stand. And she's like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to lie? And he's like, well, you don't have problems lying before with other stuff you do. And he's like, don't you do anything that's going to, not compromise your students? And aren't you responsible for threatening Lauren and getting her into the situation in the first place and this and that and convincing her to wear a wire? And so somehow he convinces her to take the stand and to tell prosecution that she has evidence against Tariq and that she'll take the stand in Lauren's place. So from there, it's just a hot mess. And so now we move forward with Carrie on the stand, and it is so bad. It is so bad. It is so bad. It is so bad. Miss Diana, she has on some weird outfit, like some type of short skirt and top. I don't know what she has on. She looks like she's going to the nightclub and not to a courthouse. I was like, what does this girl have on? What is she wearing? But Tariq had texted her in advance that if she could show up in court for him today, that she wanted, he wanted some support or whatever. So she shows up in this outfit that was inappropriate completely. Monet is sussed out because she tells Monet that she's going to Ezekiel's game, and Monet didn't trust it. So then she goes into her daughter's room and then finds condoms in her drawer. So she's pissed because she knows obviously that Diana is nowhere near this game. Then also Kane is talking to Drew, trying to convince him to be a part of this robbery they're going to stage, and wants him to kill little Guap. And, well, actually, Kane was supposed to kill little Guap, but then Drew keeps saying, oh, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to handle it myself. You know, it's revenge, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, no, this is not a good idea. And so then we see Monet and Lorenzo walking around Coney Island, because it's supposed to be like a throwback from back when the time Monet was wearing baby fat, which was like popular in the early 2000s. And it is just a hilarious scene, because you could just tell on Monet's face that she is just completely faking it, faking her enthusiasm. She's giving no energy. She is giving no love. She is giving no emotions to her husband. And this is supposed to be a romantic date. And Lorenzo has this look on his face like something's up, but he can't pinpoint like what exactly it is. And so, you know, Carrie then is getting eviscerated on the stand. She's at first making it seem as though to prosecution that she knew in advance that Tariq knew like about a day or so before Jabari's death of him being the subject of his novel, and that and Carrie also knew, and all of this other stuff. And so then Method Man goes on cross and completely goes in on Carrie and dismantles her, basically outs her for, you know, sleeping with her deceased person, her deceased lover, Jabari, the other professor, outs her for sleeping with the lead investigator, Kevin, outs her for sleeping with him, the lead defense attorney on the case, and outs her for sleeping with her student, Ezekiel Cross. And so everybody then at that point is completely shook in the courtroom, including the jury. And basically, you know, prosecution is like freaking out and trying to object. And the judge is asking, okay, why are we pulling all this up? And he's like, for credibility purposes. And basically he's saying, how can we trust that now all of a sudden your former lover, the student, was the first murder suspect, and now another student that's a suspect, you're now trying to pin it against him because you don't want it to go against another one of your lovers, and you're basically a compromise and a terrible person and a terrible reputation, sleeping with all of these people connected to the case. How are you supposed to be credible? How are we supposed to believe you when you have slept with all these people connected to the case? Like, it's just not going to be good for you. Then he made her state what the Stansfield policy was on teachers sleeping with students, and how you can't use your position of authority to manipulate the student and hook up with students and everything else, that it's not appropriate for this college. And so Carrie is completely shook on the stand. I don't think she knew that everybody knew all of her dirty secrets, but I thought she knew Method Man knew when he went to her apartment previously. Like, it was just so dumb of her to take the stand in the first place. Like, anybody with sense would have known, like, not to do any of this. So then we go back to the fake robbery setup. So then the gang is already showing up at Mecca's place where he holds the stash, where he has like all of his planes and, you know, all of his toys and everything else. And so then it just turns into a big shootout. And some people run away with some pills, but it's not where the main stash is. The main stash is actually at Mecca's penthouse. So we go back to the penthouse, and Mecca and Kane, they're up here polishing off the guns, getting ready. The power goes out all of a sudden. Chef is trying to check on things and figure out, you know, what's happening. And so they can't figure out what's happening. Then Mecca gets a call that there's a shootout, and that at his other stash, and he's like trying to figure out what is going on. Kane is pretending to be inconspicuous, but is not convincing at all. And so then they decide that they are going to go where the attempted robbery took place by the gang to try to assess the situation or what have you. So they go on their way there. Then the plan is in motion for Brayden, Drew, and Effie to then go to the penthouse. So Brayden is the one who is talking to the front desk guy, trying to pretend that he lives there and that he needs to play on his PS5 and all this other stuff, that he's some type of league or whatever. Then Effie, she goes and tries to distract security so that she can lock security into her room. and, you know, basically make sure that there's no security people around so that they can get in and out safely with the drugs and everything else. So then Drew and Little Guap, they're taking the steps all the way up to the top to where the penthouse is that Mecca, aka Dante, has. And they're doing all this back and forth. And mind you, I thought that Drew was supposed to kill Little Guap after he took the drugs, but he was so in his feelings that they ended up fighting on the steps on their way up to the penthouse. Little Guap thinks that things are going to be good between them. He gives him like some gold chains and some money as like a form of respect to try to make things good. And things just go completely left. Drew pulls out his gun, and mind you, he still has the bad arm. So I just knew this was going to go left. And then they start fighting. Little Guap knocks the gun out of his hand, and they start wrestling and going back and forth. And then it gets to a point where Little Guap falls down the steps and tells Drew that he doesn't have the balls to kill him or shoot him or anything else. And so then Drew basically starts, you know, essentially choking him to death. And then looks up and sees that there is like a bag, like, you know how you have in the apartments, like the bag where you dump your trash and dump your rubbish or whatever else. So essentially, after he chokes him to death, he is going to presumably place him into this garbage bag that will like run down all of the flights or whatever to where the garbage is. So then he goes up into the penthouse to then steal the drugs. So he goes in, steals the drugs, then sees in there also what used to be a very expensive engagement ring. So takes that as well, takes the duffel bag full of the product, and then tries to leave, gets out of there. And then next thing you know, Mecca and Kane, they arrive at the other spot where the planes and the toys and the cars and everything else are. They look at all the damage, they assess everything, and the chef goes back to the penthouse to get more ammo, to get more guns and everything else. And, you know, Mecca tells Kane to stay there, that he is going to go hunting or whatever. So by the time Drew is there, Drew's about to leave. The chef gets there like in record time, and, you know, Drew's pissed because he's like, what the heck? So he pulls out his gun because he's not sure who's there and he's about to shoot. And so then he texts Kane like, WTF, like, what is going on? Why is there somebody here? So Kane is freaking out. He pretends that, you know, he's got to go. And also Diana calls because she doesn't know where everybody is at. She doesn't know what everybody is doing because everybody is not answering their phone. But Kane does, and he pretends that it's like Mecca or somebody giving him orders because the other guy that works for Mecca is watching him. And so then Kane basically dips out because then he also gets the text message from Drew about the chef being there. So then Kane hurry up and gets to the penthouse to follow the chef to help distract the chef so that Drew can escape with the drugs. So Kane is then up here trying to distract the chef, telling him that, you know, they hurry up and need to take the drugs. They need to hurry up and, or not take the drugs, they need to hurry up and get the guns and gather up and pack up and go, essentially. And so he's like talking to him, like talking nonsense. Drew's able to escape, then safely makes it out to the car where Effie and Brayden are waiting for him, and then they drive off into the sunset. So then Tariq is able to use the engagement ring as collateral, basically, to pay Method Man for his retainer. And so Method Man is all like, man, whoever this lucky lady was, she's going to be pissed. And I don't even think Monet even knows she was about to be proposed to, but it's neither here nor there. And so, you know, he's basically like, hey, try to pawn it or whatever, but this is going to be more than enough than what you need for this retainer. You know, whatever the value of this ring is, it's like way more than what I need to pay. And so then from there, you know, Diana, she's at home all day, cooking all day, this big dinner for everyone. I personally think the Tejada dinner was like probably the best scene out of the whole episode because it was just so epic. Like, everything that took place, it was just so epic. So, you know, Tariq and Brayden and Effie, they all have a little powwow. and they're all excited or whatever that they can get back to moving some drugs, and Tariq can play his lawyer, and they can get back to moving the way they were moving before. And so then Tariq is all like, hey, Brayden, I need to talk to Effie alone. And I love what they did with Effie this episode. They had her hair like straightened out again, and she wasn't like in like the braids or like the weird ponytail like earlier in the episode. But I liked it when they had her hair like straight, because it gives her like a different mature look. And she had on like this little schoolgirl uniform outfit as part of like the fake robbery distraction attempt. And so her and Tariq, they talk alone in their in Tariq's dorm room. So Tariq tells her that it was Lauren who was the mole, and Effie's up here trying to play like, see, I knew we couldn't trust her, and it's just the irony for me, it's the audacity for me, because you're the one who got him expelled from Choate for telling them that he was the one selling drugs. And I just have no idea how Tariq can still get by that and still rock with this girl, but it is what it is. They have a very tumultuous up and down relationship, situationship, entanglement, whatever. And so she's all like, yeah, I just never knew that girl was right for you, and is she skipping out of town, and all this and that. And he's like, I don't know, but he's basically trying to downplay her role and basically trying to make it all Carrie's fault and trying to make it as though she was manipulated because she got caught with drugs, and essentially trying to, make it seem as though Lauren's completely innocent in this. And I'm like, dude, you're caught up. You've got too much feelings for her. A real one would have known, like, to leave this alone, to leave the situation alone, because it's not a good look. And it was funny because when they kicked out Brayden was all like, well, next time, can you just light a candle? And I was just dying because it was just hilarious. But I'm hoping moving forward we get like a decent romance story for Brayden. Maybe that's in season 3. And because I just think he's a great character. I love the dynamic of him and Tariq, but I think he just gives like a better, like, younger version of Tommy, and I think he has like a really nice arc to tell, and I love their dynamic. And there was actually little Tariq in this episode when you think about it, because everybody else like just had a major role to me. Like, Tariq was there, he was like a part of like the major storylines, but I felt like everybody else was just like there, like they were just, their roles were more prominent in this episode overall. So Effie and Tariq, of course, have sex again, and it's presumed for that to be the case. So then we finally get to the good stuff, the meat of the episode, which is the Tejada dinner. So we've got Lorenzo, we've got Kane, we got Drew, we got Diana, we got Monet, and we have Ezekiel Cross at the dinner. So it is just hilarious because everybody is trying to like do small talk and thank Diana for cooking this meal all day. And Monet and Diana are looking at each other like they already want to kill each other before they start eating. Everybody keeps asking each other where everybody was all day. Everybody's all trying to pretend like they had stuff to do, or that they were at, Drew and Diana are claiming to be at Ezekiel's game. Drew rats her out, says he didn't even see her there, and Ezekiel says that he didn't see neither one of them there, and Diana tried to lie and say they weren't in their usual seats. And then that's when Lorenzo says that him and Monet went to Coney Island, and she's all shook. And so then Kane is up here like, you probably went to go see Tariq, or you're probably full of it, or whatever. And so then that's when Diana outs Kane and says Kane is the one who robbed them and, stole the drugs so that he could be the new Connect, and, planted the drugs full of powdered sugar, or Domino's confectious sugar. And, Kane is really pissed, and he's like, oh, wow, so it's really like that. So everybody's just like on an expose of each other. Monet exposes Diana, says that you're all keeping up with Tariq's trial, and Lorenzo's all pissed, and she's like, yeah, I found condoms, I know you're effing Tariq, and this and that. So Diana is pissed off, and then Kane is pissed. Then he exposes Drew that you were supposed to clip Everett, and Ezekiel's all, like, what is going on? Why do you need to clip my teammate for? And they're like, don't worry about it. And so then, Diana then drops the bomb, and she's like, well, at least I'm not cheating on my husband, and you're sleeping with some guy named Dante, and Monet is about to kill her daughter. Like, she has had enough, and everybody is freaking out. And so then Diana drops the major bomb, which is Ezekiel is not their cousin, is their older brother, and everybody's freaking out, and they're like, no. Ezekiel's like, no, that's not true. Monet is my auntie. And she's like, no, Monet is your mother, and I have the receipts. So she pulls out this birth certificate that says that Ezekiel Cross was born in 1998, not 2002. And so Kane's all pissed, and he's like, you mean I'm not the oldest? And I'm just like, what is going on? I'm like, wait a minute. So if Ezekiel, he's upset. He's like, wait a minute. That means I'm 23. I'm not eligible for the NCAA to be, I'm breaking regulations. And I just died. I was like, wait a minute. So this dude was 15 and what? Like, I just couldn't take it. I could not take it. I'm like, really? Like, he was 15 beating like the ages. It's just the ages for me. I'm like, really, Courtney Kemp? Like, this is what we're doing? Like, you're 18 years old and what, the fifth grade, I think it is? Like, it was just too much. It was absolutely too much. Like, I just could not take it at all. Lorenzo's completely pissed. He tells Monet to get out. Monet is she has her foot on Diana's neck. She's like, I am going to effing kill you. She is pissed. She's so pissed. And it is so hilarious. But honestly, that scene made the episode for me. It was so entertaining. It was well acted. It was well delivered. I do not believe for 1 second Ezekiel is 23 years old. That is fake news. But nonetheless, they had to make the math work somehow with this stupid storyline they introduced. Like, I'm just like, I just never understand Courtney Kemp, because she always pulls out random storylines out of thin air in the middle of when the season is going good, after the season's already been moving in a certain direction. She pulls something out of there that just makes no sense, that makes no logic, because there's no way Diana was able to obtain this birth certificate. So I am just cracking up. It is just hilarious. So Ezekiel runs out, so he's all pissed off, and then Lorenzo basically kicks her out, and he's like, deuces, get out of my house. And Monet, she's just beside herself. She's like driving around frantic. And so then she's on the phone in her Mercedes and trying to call. And at first I thought she was going to call Dante. I thought she was going to spend the night at Dante's house. That's what I thought that she was going to go. But she's actually trying to get a hold of her oldest son, Zeke, and, trying to figure out where he is. Because, she doesn't want anything to happen to him, and she needs to make sure that Zeke remains close to her. So where would Zeke go? And other than the campus, he would go to see, naturally, his professor, Carrie, because he feels that that's the only person he could really trust at this point. And he's going to go to try to, spend some time with her, maybe hook up with her another time, or just have somebody to console, because he's in his feelings that he just found out that his auntie is really his mother. And how many times has this happened in certain families? Like, real talk. How many times has that happened real life in real families, where you grow up thinking that somebody is your auntie, and then you find out at a certain age that the auntie is really your mom, or your grandmother is really your mom, or something like that, because your real mom, she was either too young at the time to take care of you, or some other type of circumstances. So they have like some other situations and contingencies in place, and it's just a hot mess. It is really a hot mess. So you end up seeing your real mom like part-time while you stay with your auntie. So it was all a mess. It was all a lie, and it was just all epic fail. So then Dante and Kane and the chef, they're walking around. They're killing the rest of the gang that attempted to rob Mecca. However, Mecca cannot find where the stash is, because basically his people called him and told him that they couldn't find the drugs. So Mecca obviously knows that this was a safe setup and this was an inside job since they don't have the drugs. And so he basically looks at Tariq, looks at the chef, and is like, hey, somebody is about to pay for, doing this robbery because this fake robbery was an inside job. Somebody knew where my drugs were. Somebody knew where my engagement ring was and basically completely cleaned me out. So the only people who would know that information is Chef or Kane, not the gang. So they did all this killing of the gang for nothing. And so he said, which one of you? He's like, I'm going to clip the person who's the mole. And so then he slices the chef right in front of Kane's face. And Kane is completely shook. And, Dante's like, aka Mecca, is like, hey, that was the mole. But I think at this point, Dante knows Kane is the one who is selling him out. And he knows that with the previous guy that he killed, he knows it's Kane. He knows that Kane is the issue, but he has an internal conflict because he's in love with Monet and he technically really can't kill her children. So that's like the internal conflict he has. But to show Kane that he's gangster, that he will clip anybody, even his longtime people, his longtime friend and his longtime chef, he's trying to set the law and let Kane know, like, hey, any of you are disposable at any point in time. So I think he's trying to set it up to where maybe Kane eventually confesses that he is the person who is doing all of this chaos, who is being the mole, who's leaking all of this information, who is causing all this unnecessary deaths and all these unnecessary gunfire and all these fake takedowns and everything else. Like, he's the one that's actually sabotaging their partnership together. And I think it's going to come to blows either the next episode or the season finale. It's going to have to, because Mecca would have to be an idiot at this point not to realize it's Kane. I think he definitely knows it's Kane, the way that he stared at him after he killed the chef. So I think they're definitely going to have their big confrontation soon coming up, either the next episode, like I said, or episode 10. So then next thing we see is Carrie. She's up here drowning her sorrows in wine. And, she's completely shook because basically she lost everything today on the stand with the exposure of all the people she was sleeping with, as well as sleeping with a student. And so then she has a text message from the dean that basically says, hey, can you come in a little bit earlier than usual tomorrow? Which means he's likely going to fire her for breaking school policy on faculty and students having a sexual relationship and breaking those rules and whatnot. So she's up here upset. She's all teary-eyed. And so then she hits back on her iPhone and realizes she has a mixed text message from Ezekiel Cross, basically saying, hey, can I come see you or whatever. And so I thought she was going to call him back or about to call him back. And then out of nowhere, Monet appears. Because I think in Monet's thought process is Ezekiel, cannot, he needs to always be close to me. And as long as Carrie is in the picture, that is a threat to me. But it doesn't make sense, Courtney Kemp, because either way, Ezekiel Cross is still going to be pissed at you. He is going to be pissed at you. He's already pissed at you because, your whole family's pissed at you because you kept this lie, their entire lives. You lied about, Ezekiel's age and all this and that. It's just a hot mess. Lorenzo is probably going to go after the father, and then he's going to realize the father is actually the connect, so then that's going to be a hot mess. So Monet basically is trying to make Carrie the scapegoat for her problems and say that she was exposed today for a big lie, and basically wants to make Carrie the issue. And I already knew what was going to happen next. I already knew that Carrie was going to end up dead. I just didn't know how. And, the way that they had it set up where Monet was the last person with Carrie, makes it, for you to infer that she killed her. However, Zeke makes it to Carrie's apartment. And when he gets to the apartment, he sees Carrie hanging from the ceiling to indicate and potentially make it seem as though this was a suicide, but it clearly is not a suicide. I think hopefully the investigators realize that that's not the case. It was kind of anticlimactic, to be honest, for me, because at this point I didn't care if Carrie died, because I felt that they wrote her completely different this season compared to how they wrote her in Jabari the first season. And so I felt like, okay, well, I didn't really miss you anyways, but I know somehow they're going to try to pin this on Tariq or make it seem as though he killed Carrie, but it wouldn't make any sense because obviously Tariq doesn't need to kill her. Like, she completely bombed on the stand all by herself. So I'm going to wonder if they're going to figure out if this suicide thing was a setup and it really was somebody that actually killed her. So that'll be interesting to see how that comes to play. I do think there's going to be a lot of fallout from this. I do think that this is going to set up like an all-out war, that it's going to be Monet versus her family, that there's going to be more drama because, you know, now with Carrie out of the picture, I think Lorenz Tate, he's going to be trying to get revenge on Tariq because he still doesn't have, you know, the information that he needs on the other guy that's running for the office that he wants. So, you know, Lorenzo's going to be tearing down, trying to investigate, trying to find stuff. And I think there's just going to be a lot of fallout from now both professors basically being dead. Like, technically, I guess, showtime within weeks of each other. It kind of is what is, you know, seeming like. So that'll be interesting to see how this is going to go. I'm wondering how these last two episodes are going to go. Overall, I would say it is a very good episode. It's been better than like most of the episodes this season. And I don't know if it was because it was a little Tariq or because things were just moving, but the Tejada dinner scene was like the highlight for me because it was just so good. Well acted, well exposed. Everybody's skeletons got exposed and it was just hilarious. So hopefully we have like a really good two last episodes. But again, as far as the deaths go, I just didn't care about Carrie being dead and I didn't care about Little Guap dying. Like, those were like the two most anticlimactic deaths that we've had up to this point. I'm sure there's others, but at least from this episode, it was kind of like, like, I would have felt it more if they killed off Ezekiel or somebody, but it's like, Carrie dying, who cares? I don't know what's going to happen to Lauren. I see some people online speculating that they're going to clip Lauren. I don't think so. I know Lauren is signed on to do season 3. I don't think she's going to get killed, because I still think that she is going to be an endgame of some sort for Tariq, because they're trying to make Lauren seem as though she is like a younger version of Angela. So Tariq basically sees in Lauren as like the good girl, as the one that comes from the good family, is not going to ever, you know, get caught up in, you know, doing anything illegal, get caught up in crime or that sort of thing. So he looks at her as like that Angela type, and he looks at Diane and Effie as like a mix of like a younger version of his mother, basically. So he's always going to have them around, even when they may mess up or they may betray him, because he knows that they know his secrets and they know his bad secrets. So there's always going to be that sort of allegiance to the both of them. But I mean, Tariq is living the college dream. This is what the college guys do. You know, they're just, you know, hooking up with the girls and telling them all what they want to hear in that moment when they're with them. And then that's on that. Like, nobody's committed to anybody, regardless of what they say. So, I'm sure he's living the dream, you know. So that is all that I have on the episode. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think the fallout of this is going to be? What do you guys think the fallout of the trial is going to be? Do you think that Tariq is going to get off? Do you think that they are going to find another murder suspect to pin this double murder on, and potentially triple murder now? Because they'll probably likely connect this Carrie murder as well to the other murders. And what do you guys think? Because I think now they're going to try to bring in the drug piece of it all and try to link that to the murders as well, and try to find evidence against Tariq to maybe get him on drug charges as well. Do you think there's going to be a situation where Tariq gets custody back of his sister? Do you think that the grandmother will come back and get out of rehab? Do you think Ghost is secretly alive? What are your thoughts? What do you think of the deaths of the family? What do you think of little Guap dying this episode, Carrie dying this episode, the Tejada family dying and breaking apart with Monet's big lies and secrets? What do you guys think? What did you guys think of the Tejada dinner and everything that was revealed? What did you guys think of the fake robbery that was just poorly executed, in my opinion, because it was just so obvious it was a Kane thing to do, and it just did not make any sense. Like how he just immediately just threw out the right gang that it was, and then they get there at the hangar and it is the gang. And it's like, do you think Mecca, aka Dante, is stupid? Like, really, Kane? So I am just curious to figure out your guys' thoughts. What do you guys think of this episode? Did you guys like this episode? Did you guys hate this episode? What are your thoughts? Those of you, if it's your first time viewing my channel, welcome. Please check out my playlist. I have a power playlist of some of the episodes that I reviewed this season. Please check them out if it's your first time viewing. Those of you who have been long-term viewers of my channel, those of you are my subscribers who've been long-term supporters, thank you so much. You guys are very engaging in the comments. I appreciate each and every single one of you. You guys are all amazing. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video, share this review with all of your Power fans, all your Power friends that love and watch the show. And let me know what you guys think. Please react. Let me know. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have an amazing rest of your day.